Get ready to pay a lot more for your electricity in California, but there is a way for you to fight back. Plus, a California politician caught with his pants down urinating in public. Will he be held accountable? We got all that and more coming up. I'm Carl DeMaio, chairman of Reform California, and we'll get to the local politician in California that got caught with his pants down urinating on the doorstep of a local small business in just a moment. But first, let's talk about your pocketbook, your household budget. The cost of electricity has been skyrocketing in California because California's liberal politicians have implemented the Green New Deal in our state. We have choked off the supply of energy. We've added billions of dollars of hidden state taxes into the utility rates, and all sorts of other manipulation, price manipulation in the utility market has resulted in skyrocketing electricity bills for all California homeowners. It's going to get worse because California politicians now have a new scam. They want to charge you higher electricity rates based on how much you earn, your income. And we at Reform California have been fighting that proposal every step of the way, and we believe we have a way to stop it dead cold in its tracks. But first, let me give you the update on the utility rate issues. California Globe is out with this story. No surprise, Californians paying 140% more for electricity than other states. It points out, depending upon where you live in California, it could be much worse. So in Taft, California, it costs 275% more than the electricity costs in Bullhead City, Arizona. Now, a lot of these disparities have to deal with kind of the local energy markets, local utility providers. But overall, we're seeing more than double the rates from the nationwide comparisons. All of it has been driven by the Green New Deal. There's a couple things that California has done. Number one, California has restricted power plants in our state. They are trying to force us to purchase very expensive energy. By choking off the supply of energy or the type of energy that we can buy, they're passing on much higher costs, exponentially higher costs for the actual cost of the electricity per kilowatt hour. And this comes in two forms. California is not like any other state in that the market doesn't get to decide what electricity generation we use. Most states are using clean natural gas. California doesn't do coal, but some states do use coal. There's hydro. Obviously, California likes the renewables, the solar and the wind. But solar and wind is far more expensive. It's also not reliable because in the middle of the night, well, you can't get a whole lot of solar power. In fact, you can get none. Californians have also, California politicians, not the voters, California politicians have shut down the nuclear power plants. Right now, we have one nuclear power plant left, which is Diablo Canyon, which is responsible for about 7 to 9% of our energy on any given day. And they had already decided to shut that down by order of the government, by the regulations that were adopted. But Gavin Newsom saw the light, if you will, if not, was concerned about the darkness and said, okay, we'll give them a couple more years. Well, again, we're getting rid of nuclear. They're regulating clean natural gas out of existence because they say that it's carbon-based fuel. And so they have this bizarre concept that somehow we're going to be able to run our state based on wind and based on solar, which is absolutely scientifically impossible. And they say we're going to get batteries and whatnot, but that's not workable. At the same time, though, they are demanding that other forms of energy for other devices be completely shifted onto the energy grid. So not only are they restricting production of energy by saying you can't have natural gas power plants, you can't have nuclear power plants. As they're reducing the supply of energy, they're then also adding burden to the energy grid by saying that we have to go to an all electric vehicle fleet. So when you tell the drivers that they can't gas up with gasoline at the station at $7 a gallon, but they have to charge their car in their garage or at a charging station you're spiking the demand on the electricity grid. So basic economics, when you spike demand and you reduce supply, you're going to have a very expensive situation. You're also going to have shortages, and that raises the risks of brownouts and blackouts. A good example of the cost differential is just recently, and we covered this on this show, just recently the California politicians decided to pass a law forcing the state taxpayers to subsidize offshore wind energy production. And the reason why they had to do that is a bunch of rich developers said, oh, we're going to put a bunch of windmills off the coast of California. And they went to the utility companies and said, hey, if we build it, will you buy our power? And the utility companies said, not at that price, because the developers were charging an astronomically higher rate for their kilowatt hours of electricity, because it costs a lot of money to put a windmill in the middle of the ocean. Nope, no surprise there. So utility companies said, we've got to look out for our customers and get the cheapest electricity that we can possibly get. So we're not going to give you a contract to commit that we're going to buy your kilowatt hours. That's why the government came in and said, oh, you know what we're going to do? We're going to buy those kilowatt hours. We're going to, basically give a big commitment, financial commitment to these developers for these windmills. And the costs are going to be borne by you, the ratepayer. So what they're going to do is the government under this law will go ahead and make a commitment to the windmill developers. Then they're going to turn around and force the utility companies to buy the electricity at a higher rate, because the government therefore says, hey, we got all this electricity. Here's the cost. We'll give it to you at a cost reimburse rate. Oh, I'm sure that there'll be an overcharge or a overhead fee applied on top of it. It always is with government. So the first thing that we've got is the choking of the supply of energy, and that spikes the cost. The other thing is that when you choke the supply of energy inside California, what it means is that California does not produce enough energy to supply its own needs. So we have to import. Are you ready for this? We have to import 1/3 of every kilowatt hour that we consume of electricity in California. No, where do you import energy from? From other states. So we are buying energy from Arizona, Nevada, Utah, and all that energy has to be transported. Do you know what happens to energy when you transport it across lines? You lose about 30 to 40% of the value of the energy. You're following this, right? So when you're now importing because you're not producing enough, not only do you have more expensive power in your own state, but you're also paying for kilowatt hours to transport kilowatt hours. And those kilowatt hours that you're paying for, the 30% that you're losing, you're never going to be able to use that to turn on a lamp or power any sort of device. You're paying for extra kilowatt hours to transport to use the ones that actually show up. Again, thanks, California politicians, for royally blanking up our electricity grid and system. The other way that they're killing us is that they're adding the climate taxes. So they've got the cap and trade taxes. They've got this $15 billion climate bond that they want to put on. All of that is applied in the forms of a tax to your utility rates. It's called cap and trade. So anything that has carbon in it will be taxed. On top of that, the utility companies' rates are not set by the utility companies. They're set by government, the Public Utilities Commission. And they are mandating that these utility companies pay for all sorts of regulatory costs and hire only woke contractors. So they have to be pro-union. They have to be from minority communities. And so all of these extra programs are mandated on the backs of you and me, the ratepayers. We don't see that on our bill. It actually appears in the form of a higher kilowatt hour charge. And so the data is out there. Excuse me, the data is out there. And these top line numbers, people are always asking me, why is it so much more expensive? And what I just walked you through in that little tutorial is why it is so much more expensive. Another study I want you to check out are the taxes, hidden taxes on your bills. The Transparency Foundation, of which I'm on the board, put out a study last year showing $4.5 billion in hidden state taxes on California utility bills. And of course, those climate mandates that I just talked about, the forcing us to buy virtue signaling energy, That adds even more, along with the cap and trade taxes. $4.5 billion. And so where do these tax fees go? Again, they're embedded in the rates that you pay. You don't see it on your bill. It increases your kilowatt hour rates. And so they're charging you more for your energy so that more money can be collected from you to pay for windows for someone down the street, free windows. Yeah. And they say, oh, well, if we give that person down the street free windows at the expense of taxpayers, maybe we'll see energy efficiency at that person's home. Well, excuse me, I'm not getting the windows. Why am I paying a higher rate so the person down the street gets more better windows? Or about 40% in some communities of utility ratepayers' bills, statewide it's about 20%, are in debt, in arrears. They're not paying their utility bills. And so again, you're paying higher rates so that the utility company can then just wipe away the debt of the person down the street that has chosen not to pay their utility bill. Now, I say the word chosen, a little broadly. A lot of these people are struggling because of California, and they're like, well, I can't pay, I've got to pay my, food bill or my heating bill. So it's eat or heat. So I do sympathize, but if you actually fixed the problem and lowered the cost, more people wouldn't be falling behind in their bills. So these $4.5 billion in hidden taxes, check out that story at thetransparencyfoundation.org. Now, what does this all mean? Well, we have two ways to fix the utility crisis in California. Number one is we have to throw the bums out. We have to throw politicians out that are voting for the Green New Deal, the Greedy New Deal. And so that's why at Reform California, we endorse candidates for state Senate, state assembly, all the way down to your local government. Because the mandates that these politicians, these left-wing politicians are adopting are driving higher costs for you and me. So our voter guide is obviously pretty key when it comes time for election. We only endorse people who are rejecting these high cost mandates. The second thing we're doing is we're behind the California Taxpayer Protection Initiative. This is a groundbreaking landmark tax reform measure that's on the November 2024 ballot, and it would protect Prop 13. It would require honest ballot titles for any tax increase going forward. It restores a 2/3 vote on local taxes, but more importantly than anything else for you out there on the issue of utility rates, it will immediately overturn much of the $4.5 billion in illegal taxes that are put on your bills overnight when it passes. Because the Taxpayer Protection Initiative says that you're not allowed to charge a taxpayer a fee or increase their cost for a service like utilities if they're not getting 100% of the value of that fee back in the form of a direct service to themselves. So they can't charge you higher rates to go pay for the windows of someone down the street or to cover the debt forgiveness on someone else's bill. So you will receive an immediate savings on your utility bill when the Taxpayer Protection Initiative passes. And then finally, this is the best part about the Taxpayer Protection Initiative. There is a proposal in Sacramento, and they are hell-bent on implementing this, to charge you higher utility rates, higher electricity rates based on your income. Oh, I kid you not. They want to take your personal state tax returns and give them to your utility company. And then based on your household income, if you earn too much, you will pay a higher electricity rate on your bill. It's insane. This is socialism. It is a wealth transfer. It is robbery. The Taxpayer Protection Initiative stops that dead in its tracks. If you want to join the campaign and help us out, chip in a contribution online at stopcaliforniataxhikes.com, stopcaliforniataxhikes.com. StopCaliforniaTaxHikes.com goes to this page, and you can obviously click a contribution button right down here to make a contribution. Real quick, this is really disgusting, but it's kind of part and parcel with the bad behavior of politicians in California and the double standard that they appear to suggest that they have. Headline, Fox 11 in Los Angeles, California council member caught on video urinating in public. Well, I mean, the politicians let the homeless people crap and urinate in public. Why not, let the politicians do it? So let's go ahead and see what this one's all about.
Chris Kilpatrick is a public figure himself in the middle of a controversy. Saturday night, as the precinct was closing, a gay bar downtown, he and his boyfriend were caught on surveillance video. Precinct manager Jeremy Lucido says,
urinated together on our door, and then as they walk away is when I ran into them.
Lucido says he and another man from the bar identified themselves as management when they allegedly saw the two leaving with drinks, a violation of the city code, he says.
You can't have open alcohol.
Okay, so here's a city council member who knows that you're not supposed to have open carry of alcohol. And he thinks, well, I'm a politician. I can do whatever I want. Look, this guy, Chris Kilpatrick, Democrat from Crescentia Valley, California, this little entitled SOB absolutely needs to be held accountable to the full extent of the law. He is open carry, which, by the way, is a violation that's going to hurt the establishment. So this business owner could get penalized if he, sees and allows a city council member or anyone else walking out with a drink. The penalty would be on the business owner, the bar owner, because they're responsible for compliance. Then he's out there urinating on the front doorstep of the business in a city that he's supposed to be an elected leader, a role model on.
Alcohol on the street. You can't drink on the street.
And is it your responsibility as a
resp-
bar operator to
Yeah,
stop
because
it?
then that's putting us in jeopardy that we're allowing people to leave intoxicated.
Lucido says there was a tussle.
Went to grab the glass, and he just instinctively pushed me.
He says he fell to the ground.
Oh my God, look at this. It is assault and battery now. You've got this little punk politician entitled, holier than thou, double standards, now assaulting the business owner, pushing him to the ground. This is insane.
It was like pushed right to the chest, caught me off guard. I didn't expect it, and I just flew back on my.
But Kilpatrick's attorney, John Duran, tells a different story about how his client was approached by two men. He says the first individual grabbed my client aggressively, asking if he had been at the precinct bar. My client instinctively pushed back in self-defense. It was reasonable for him to believe that they were about to possibly be gay bashed by these
don't
two
even
individuals.
start with the woke identity politics crap. So here's a politician violating 3 laws, assaulting someone, urinating on a small business, and obviously open carry. And he claims that he's the victim, that he had fear of his LGBT status. He was going to give me a break. Absolutely insane. This guy needs to be removed from office. He needs to do the right thing and resign. And if not, frankly, and he's not worth a recall. I mean, because recalls are hard and take money, but I encourage the community there to recall this son of a bitch. But at the end of the day, boot his ass out of office and make him famous. Make sure everyone knows about his little self-entitled, arrogant, double standard, screw the world attitude. This is what's wrong with politics. And in particular in California, when you have one-party control, these Democrat politicians think they can do whatever the hell they want and they can get away with it. The corruption of a one-party state, it just exacerbates bad behavior like this. Join us at Reform California. We're fighting back. We can't do it without your help. So go to our site, reformcalifornia.org. Make sure you sign up to get our voter guide by signing up as a subscriber at the bottom here. It takes only seconds. And then, of course, please chip in a contribution because we are entirely powered by grassroots supporters like you. Until next time, Carl DeMaio, Chairman of Reform California. Help us break through the censorship of the liberal media. Like this video, subscribe to this channel, and smash that notification button so you can stay up to date on all the developments in California news and politics. Also, please visit the website, reformcalifornia.org, for ongoing news coverage and to join one of our campaigns in the fight to take back our state. If you can, please sign up as a volunteer or chip in a contribution. This episode of Reform California with Carl DeMaio, paid for by Carl DeMaio for State Assembly 2024.